You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Good evening. My name is Peter Basserman, Chairman of Branford's Inland Wetland and Watercourses Commission. It is 7 o'clock on February 8th, 2024. We're having our regular meeting of the commission this evening. We are doing that in accordance with Public Act 22-3. We would ask all members a couple things. One, when you're on screen, please make sure that the BCTV folk can record everyone's faces. Also, if you need to speak, please raise your hand. Hopefully, staff will recognize who is in fact looking to speak. Let's see, we have enough commissioners. Do we have 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I think we now have 8. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, we're good. All right, all commissioners present are seated and can vote. I'm going to do a roll call. Last time I missed staff, so I'd like to start with staff. Jamie Ann Frederick.
Present.
Katie Blanchette.
Present.
David Golkowski. You're muted, Dave. Clarice Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman present.
Commissioner Omrod.
Commissioner Ormrod present.
Commissioner Golkowski. Let the record show that he waved his hand. Commissioner Papantonis.
Commissioner Papantonis present.
Commissioner Boda.
Commissioner Boda present.
Commissioner Finaro.
Commissioner Finaro present.
Okay. First on the agenda this evening, we have the minutes for approval. 2 of them, January 25th, 2024, the regular meeting minutes. By the way, everything that's going to be discussed tonight is on the Dropbox in the town. So that the minutes that we are using tonight are those that were filed on February 6th for tonight's February 8th meeting. Is there a motion to accept the minutes of January 25th?
This is Commissioner Begeman. Before we accept, can I say something, or do you want to do that in the discussion of the accepting?
Certainly, let's see if we have a vote to accept the minutes, and then we can have discussion.
So, excuse me, Commissioner Boda, pardon me, Chair. I think if there's going to be any changes to the minutes, it should happen before a motion is made, because any discussion about a motion is about the motion. It's not about the content of whatever it is that we're discussing. So if Commissioner Begeman wants
this is a process question,
or maybe a change to the minutes, either way, that should happen not after a motion is made and seconded, because any discussion about a motion is only about the motion, not about the substance that the motion is about.
Okay. Commissioner Begeman, you have a comment.
Commissioner Begeman, just in number 2 applications for review, because it was my concern about the invasives, can the minutes reflect that it was about 2 of the proposed plants? It was about a Pachysandra and the Vinca having invasive tendencies.
I can certainly change that. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That was it for me.
Any other comments on the minutes? Okay, I guess for the January 25th meeting minutes, do we have a motion to approve those minutes with the recommendation by Commissioner Begeman?
Commissioner Papantonis, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the correction suggested by Commissioner Begeman before we took up this issue.
And hopefully a second.
Commissioner Boda, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Everybody, any opposed? Any recusals or abstentions? Great. January 27th meeting. This is a special meeting minutes. This was the site walk. That was short and sweet. Any motion on those minutes?
This is Commissioner Boda. I'll make a motion that we approve the Saturday, January 27th special meeting site walk minutes.
Commissioner Papantonis, second.
Any further discussion? Any abstentions?
This is Commissioner Ormrod. I'll abstain. I did not attend.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I'll just point out that we lost Klowski for at least that second vote, so
I had to re-sign in.
probably keep him out of that second motion and just note that he has returned to the meeting.
Okay. Well, before we leave this item, process-wise, so is there a difference in approval of the minutes? Because when we get into the body of the agenda, I thought when we made a motion, then if we had a correction, we could have a friendly amendment to that motion, but the motion had to take place first. So is there a difference on minutes versus content of the meeting itself?
It's Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So I think with minutes, it's a little bit different because it's regarding the content of the minutes rather than the content of the motion, if you will. And sometimes the comments that commissioners may have might be something that staff can't respond to right away, and the minutes end up getting tabled. So rather than making a motion and then withdrawing it, it makes more sense to just discuss what those changes are. But I mean, there's always discussion on an item, or typically discussion on an item before a motion is made. And any further discussion is regarding the motion and if it captures what the commission wants it to capture.
Okay. Thank you. First up, after the approval of minutes is the applications for review in the wetland 240102, 38 Howard Avenue. This is a patio and landscaping retaining wall and shed application. This evening, we are looking to review the petitions to intervene only. This has been on the commission's agenda since April of 23rd. It's had some stops and starts. We are now at the point where we have an application. Public has looked to intervene. We have a number of interveners. At the last meeting of the commission, we established February 22nd as the public hearing where we can discuss that application. And this evening, we are only here to look at the petitions to intervene. Jamie, you want to set the stage for that this evening?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So just to clarify, so in review of petitions to intervene, essentially the commission is looking at the process of how to process the petitions, the actual arguments for whether the content of the petitions would also be continued to that February 22nd date. So at this time, there are 5 petitions for intervener status. 2 petitions have been received subsequent to concerns raised at the last meeting regarding the verification of the petitions. So two of them are from the same parties. So I think that that gives a brief overview. And I will hand it over to town council to present to the commission what their findings are regarding meeting the requirements of the statutes.
Okay. Bill Anaskovich, Brenner Saltzman, Town Council. Jamie, just for starters, just so that we're all on the same page, I believe we have 3 petitions for intervention, numbered 13 from Dan Coughlin, numbered 17 from Diaz Romero and Nori, and number 22 from Licio. Are there you mentioned 5, but I think the 2 are repeats, right? But those are the 3, just so the commission knows, those are the 3 we're talking about.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, those are the 3 latest. So yeah, there was an 8 was also, I believe,
That was Diaz
9
Romero.
was Stephen Romero. Yeah, and those 2 we've received subsequent ones updated to reflect the concerns raised at the last meeting. So I guess you could say we have 3 pending.
Yeah. Okay. So before you, commission members, you have the 3 that are numbered 13, 17, and 22. Let me just start by sort of laying out the process by which the commission ought to make a decision with respect to whether a petition has been properly filed and can be accepted. Generally speaking, the statute and the case law interpreting the statute establishes 4 factors for accepting a petition for intervention. The first requires that a petition be verified. Now, verification was put into the language of the statute because the only thing that you can verify are facts. An acknowledgement, a typical notary acknowledgement, simply acknowledges that the person is who the person purports to be, and the signature is his or her free act and will. A verified petition requires that you swear an oath to the truth of the facts alleged in the petition. And that leads you to the second requirement, that a petition to be valid has to do more than simply allege or repeat the statutory language of harm to the environment by way of shorthand, but has to allege facts specific enough to allow the commission to determine that the issues are within its jurisdiction and raise harm to the environment, because a verified petition for intervention is limited to environmental concerns. And then finally, you can only accept petitions for intervention when you are approving conduct. So when you're acting in your legislative capacity, generally speaking, courts will say that the petition provision 22A19 doesn't apply. We definitely have conduct here, so that's not a question. I've reviewed the 3 that I referenced, and it's my opinion that the Diaz Romero, Nori, and Licio petitions are verified. You will see that the notary block goes beyond the normal standard, and the notary is notarizing that they are making an oath as to the truth of the petition. I also think in both those instances, there is sufficiently specific factual allegations of harm that are within your jurisdiction to allow you to reasonably accept those 2 petitions. However, with respect to number 13 from Dan Coughlin, if you look at that one, you'll see that the acknowledgement at the bottom of that document merely states that the signer, Coughlin, signed that the document states that the document contains true statements to the best of his knowledge. That's clearly not a verification. And I would suggest that you do not take action on that one and recommend to Mr. Coughlin, if he wants to be an intervener, that he submit a properly verified petition, which you can then accept, because I think his allegations are also specific enough to merit approval. But I do think that the lack of verification could be fatal to a petition. And so I think it would be in your best interest, the commission's best interest, to require him to resubmit with a properly verified petition. But I do think that you can act on Diaz Romero and Licio this evening, and I would recommend that you approve those petitions.
This is Commissioner Papantonis. I have a question for Town Council. As I was reviewing the Diaz Romero Nuri petition, it appears to be notarized by only one of a Diaz Romero and not Nuri. Would you recommend that we would make a motion to just allow Diaz Romero to intervene, or can we allow the petition of Nuri when it's not verified?
The Commissioner, that is a very good point. So technically, only I'm actually looking at it right now. You're right. Only the Diaz Romero signature is notarized. Yeah, I mean, to the extent that we're allowing Mr. Coughlin to submit, perhaps we would also limit the approval to Diaz Romero tonight, and ask that a separate petition or a properly acknowledged notarized petition that includes both of them be submitted. It's probably a good idea.
Any other questions for Town Council?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I'll just note that we do have a comment in the comments section. I was present when the notary notarized the letter by Sophia Nori.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I understand that that's probably true, but for purposes of establishing a record, I believe that it would behoove the commission to cross its T's and dot its I's.
Is that acceptable, Ms. Nori?
Just so that I understand for next time, because when the notary saw both of us sign it, and then notarized it, do we need two notaries to be there to notarize it?
No, you don't need two. No, yeah, I'm sorry. To Sophia, you don't need two notaries. You just need the notary block. Oh, good. Thank you, Jamie. I was going to ask you to do that.
I see. Okay, thank you. So they should say both of our names.
Both, yeah, because yes, because the acknowledgement is actually doing two things. It's actually acknowledging that just what you said, that the notary, that you personally appeared before the notary, that she knew you to be the person that you purported to be, and that was your free act deed, and you made the oath to the truth of the matters.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Yep.
This is Commissioner Basserman. I guess is the other party that needs to revise the petition on the call tonight? I didn't see him or her.
It's a Daniel Coughlin.
Yeah, I don't see the individual.
Yeah, this is Sophia. I can say that he couldn't come tonight, but I can let him know. And he also mailed in an updated petition already, so you'll be receiving that. Yeah.
Sure.
Right. This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, does the commission need to vote on this?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. Yeah, I think the commission you could vote to table the ones that you need more information on and accept the ones that you have sufficient certification for or verification for.
Yeah, and if now that Ms. Nori knows what she has to do, maybe that's the right thing to do. Maybe take no action on 17 and 13, approve 22, and then at your next meeting, you can approve the other two. And actually, it's not an approval motion, Mr. Chairman. It would be a move to accept the petition would be the proper motion.
Commissioner Basserman, thank you to town council. I guess I'll make the motion while it's fresh in my mind to accept the petition number 22 as filed with staff of the Branford Inland Wetland Commission for Inland Wetland 24010238 Howard Avenue. Is there a second?
Commissioner Papantonis, I'll second.
Any discussion or dissension? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Gokowski.
Commissioner Gokowski, aye.
Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Papantonis.
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Armrod.
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Finaro.
Commissioner Finaro, aye.
Commissioner Boda.
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Basserman. Aye. Hello, who's saying hello?
It's BCTV.
I just muted them.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you. That was coming from nowhere. All right. Let's see. Enforcement.
Wait, did we get
Violation
everyone on the
program.
vote there?
I thought.
No,
I
we
had
didn't.
7.
I
Who
have
am I
5
missing?
tallies, but I also got distracted, so. Did any commissioners not vote? All right, we must have gotten there.
I went down a list of 7 and I heard from
I
everybody.
think I was too distracted trying to figure out who was talking. I apologize.
Gotcha. Okay. Notice of violation 38 Howard Avenue, retaining wall and associated activities. As noted before, we have established 38 Howard Avenue, its application for a discussion on public hearing on February 22nd, and we agreed at the last meeting that we would hold off any discussion on the NOV until February 22nd as well. Now, the next item under enforcement, consider whether to issue cease and correct orders relative to regulated activity conducted without a permit at 34 Howard Avenue and 38 Howard Avenue, activity subject to notice of violation sent April 24th, 2023. Jamie, can you indicate the rationale for why a cease and correct should be issued for 34 and 38 Howard Avenue?
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. So the thought behind this is the fact that, you know, this is still before the commission. The activity does span onto both properties, and ultimately some sort of corrective action needs to be taken relative to both properties in order to be in compliance with the regulations. A permit to conduct regulated activity is a request to conduct regulated activity. It grants authorization. It doesn't require that activity be completed. So if the commission is looking for some sort of corrective action to be taken, a cease and correct order is the best and correct format to do that. So basically by issuing a cease and correct order to both property owners, it would, you know, kind of outline and reinforce what the commission's concerns are relative to the activity that has occurred, and what it is that the commission's looking to have done to correct those actions. If the commission decides that they do want to issue cease and correct orders, I would recommend it be both properties, because both property owners ultimately would be responsible from the authorization standpoint at minimum. And I would also recommend that the commission have staff consider timeframes with state statutes such that the just cause hearing could be scheduled for the February 22nd meeting.
This is this is Commissioner Begemon. Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
As a layperson, if I didn't do anything on my property, but somebody else did, and then I got a cease and correct on my property, I think it would really make me confused, and I wouldn't want that on my record as a property owner. So I just wanted to put that out there before we got further.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So a cease and correct order doesn't have to be contentious. And if you think it would be helpful, there could be, language acknowledging that per the record that the owners of 38 appear to have conducted the activity. But I think it's also in that property owner's best interest because it outlines that the commission is concerned about making sure that the correction extends to their property. And I see we have a hand raised. Chairman, would you like to?
Commissioner Goklowski. Commissioner Goklowski.
Hang on, hold on, Commissioner Goklowski. I think what I'd like to do is get a sense from the commission on the discussion about the cease and correct, number one, and the cease and correct on both properties, and then open it up for discussion from members not on the commission. Commissioner Goklowski, go ahead.
My concern, I wanted to address Commissioner's concern about, whose property this particular problem falls on. And my whole thought process since this whole situation began, and believe me when I tell you, I don't like the fact that one property owner decided to do some work without applying for the proper permits. And I also, the other property owner, shame on them for not picking up the phone and calling the town hall and saying there's work being conducted on the inland wetlands and possibly encroaching on my property. And this could have been all averted a long time ago because I did it to my own tenant when he was doing work on his property that he didn't have a permit. And I called the town and 5 minutes later they showed up and made him stop. I mean, they knew this work was going on long before they've come before this commission.
This is Commissioner Boda. Excuse me for interrupting. I just, because we have a public hearing that is coming, it's really vitally important that we not discuss the things that are going to be discussed at the public hearing. We cannot have any of that kind of, anything of substance about that outside of that public hearing. And that's protection for us, that's protection for all parties involved. So I think that the question, Jamie had a very, there's a very specific and narrow question about whether it's appropriate to issue a cease and correct to the other property 34 as well. And so I can see we have multiple attorneys' hands up. I know that the chairman has said, like, commission, like, what do you think? And that's appropriate. I am curious what the attorneys have to say, but I just want to make sure that we are in good legal standing and not kind of getting ourselves in trouble.
Any other commissioner look to make comment at this point? I think this Commissioner Basserman, Attorney Shansky had her hand up first, so you have the floor, Attorney Shansky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky. I represent Charles Watts and Kim McCabe at 38 Howard Avenue for months. We had an application before this commission that it wouldn't entertain for the absence of the neighbor's signature on it. So the utility of including them, should the commission deem it necessary, to issue another order to the owners of property who are well aware of the commission's interest in regularizing the permit status of the property. It seems to gild the lily in a sense here, because I don't know, notwithstanding counsel for the neighbor agreeing that the wall needs to be removed, they have not consented to signing on to that application. So we are at impasse on that issue. The good news, were there any good news, is that we have repeatedly had both Mr. Preddy and Matt Davison, who have verified and repeated to the commission that there is no harm to the receiving water course and that the site is stable. So I appreciate this is taking way too long. The commission will do what the commission does, but to the extent that you will not entertain an application without the signature of all of the affected properties, to do less is not to advance the ball in any meaningful way. We're looking forward to seeing you on the 22nd. Thank you.
And Attorney Ainsworth.
Yes, thank you, sir. So this has now gone from the realm of annoying to the absurd. The suggestion that somehow my clients are the shameful ones for not reporting something that they couldn't have seen because they weren't in their house yet is a problem. Number two, they reported it as soon as they knew about it. Number three, the fact that my clients might get penalized, have some sort of enforcement action against them for actions that are not of their own choosing seems to be unfair to them. And the accusation by the applicant's counsel that somehow their application should have been signed on to when for months they didn't consult with my clients and simply asked us to sign the application that they prepared without including my clients in the design seems a little unfair as well. In addition, my clients made it very clear during the course of those proceedings many times, or at least several times, that they wanted to have a complete solution, not a partial one, and that there were outstanding issues that needed to be addressed. Because what the applicant was attempting to do was solve the problems that benefited their project, but didn't resolve the problems that they had created on the adjacent property, which is why we're now in court. And because the jurisdiction of this commission is limited and doesn't have the ability to solve all of the issues, we filed litigation where the court does have the ability to resolve all of these things. That's no slight on the commission. You have a statutory limitation that makes it only possible for you to do part of it. But we haven't agreed to the application because it doesn't solve the problems that are meaningful to my client. And I don't know why we should resolve the problems that the neighbors created. So I think it's quite simple. We were trying to participate in the proceedings, and we've been doing that for months and months and months, longer certainly than Attorney Shansky has certainly been involved in. And now we're here again participating. But tomorrow there's a proceeding in court. We'll be there, and perhaps some progress will be made. But I'll just say I also found the fine parsing of the petition to intervene to be a little bit problematic as well. The statute says that petitions to intervene need to be verified. Doesn't say that every signature or every party to that intervention needs to be verified, just the intervention itself, because it's the facts that are being verified, not the people. But that having been said, we're here. And the commission, as Attorney Shansky said, will do what it will do. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think at this point, my thinking is that this particular situation already has quite a number of layers and is complicated enough with the filings that we have. And if with the public hearing, we need to add other cease and correct in order to protect the town and our purview according to our regulations. I think that we can let that arise then. I think doing that now when we have the public hearing coming, unless somebody can, you know, Jamie or Attorney Anaskovich can indicate why it would be preferable for us to add additional cease and corrects. I'm of the mind that we need to leave well enough alone for now. And we're going to be talking about this in a couple of weeks anyway.
Jamie Frederick in the Wetland Agent. So I just want to clarify that there are no cease and correct orders relative to this activity as it stands right now. So it wouldn't be additional. It would be the implementation of a cease and correct order. And I think that if the commission were to issue a cease and correct order, it makes sense to apply it to both properties. And the statutes allow for the commission to issue a cease and correct order to a property owner and to a violator. So the commission could say for 34 Howard Ave that they were going to issue the cease and correct order to both 34 and 38 Howard Ave if they felt that that was appropriate. The state statutes also ultimately hold the property owner responsible for making sure that their site is compliant with the regulations. So I do think it would make sense to include the owners of 34 if a violation was being issued relative to 34. And I think the concerns again are making sure that the violation is being, so a notice of violation is an informal enforcement tool that brings the party to the table unless the commission start a conversation about how to get the site into compliance. A cease and correct order is a formal enforcement tool, and it allows the commission to say, yes, there has been a violation. This is what the violation was. This is what you need to do to correct it. So if there is something that the commission wants to have done to correct the violation, a cease and correct order is the tool to accomplish that. I guess one other point without diving too much, actually I'm going to defer to the raised hand before I say anything else.
Attorney Anaskovich, please go ahead.
Sure. Bill Anaskovich, Ken Brenner, Sauce from Town Council. I have a couple comments. One, I think most importantly, I think Commissioner Boda raises a good question, which is why do this now with a pending hearing on a notice of violation and an application to address that notice of violation. I think the concern that the commission ought to consider in that regard is what you have before you is an application to remove a portion of the retaining wall because the applicants cannot obtain the consent of the abutting property owner to remove the entire wall. And so acting on that application presents a situation in which the commission could be put in a position of approving the partial removal of a wall, which might do more harm than good at this point. And so I think the thought process on staff's part is to assure that what's before the commission is a solution to the entire problem, because the commission's interest, with all due respect to the various arguments made by the two attorneys who are very capable people and have been doing this for a long time, most of the back and forth about what happened 3 months ago and the conversations are completely irrelevant to the commission's interest. The commission has a situation in which a non-permitted structure is being maintained on 2 properties. And our regulations, 14.4, says that a person can't construct or maintain any activity or condition which is in violation. And the fact of the matter is, both properties have a violation. And so what you have before you is an application to solve part of the problem, not the whole problem. And the concern on staff's part, I think it's a legitimate one, is, well, what if we approve the application to remove a part of the wall? Do we then become a source of of a problem by our action? So I think that the suggestion that we have, I mean, at a minimum, 2 notices of violation, if not 2 cease and corrects, something that calls the question and establishes that the commission's interest is in getting this wall either removed or properly permitted. That's the limit of, I think, what the commission should be considering here. The rest is all noise from the perspective of what your regulatory authority is. And as Attorney Ainsworth has pointed out, there's litigation that is going to resolve all of that noise, hopefully. And yes, the court does have the power to issue an order to both parties in that litigation with respect to the removal of the wall. And that raises the possibility, now that there's litigation, that you just ignore the whole thing. I mean, but I don't know that anyone would think that's reasonable. but I think that I hope that addresses the question you raised, because I think it's the right question, Commissioner Boda. And I think that's the right answer to your question. Whether that's persuasive to you as commission members, that's your that's your call.
Commissioner Basserman, and I guess my concern as well is we go through the application process and issue a permit, and the wall is not removed. And clearly, even though we don't have total authority here, the regulations that we do have say that that's a violation that needs to be cured. And we've had difficulty getting a consistent approach to the removal of the wall. I guess then the question is the timing. If we're not real comfortable with an application, the timing of the cease and correct, and Commissioner Boda raises the issue about whether that gets dealt with today or whether that gets dealt with on the 22nd. Attorney Shansky, you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Briefly, I simply want to say that council's comments about, I don't know, I guess he was implying that Ms. Frederick is concerned that what's been applied for will do, quote, more harm than good. I think that's a premature statement, that's what the public hearing is for, and that should be not a consideration because that's what the public hearing is for. Thank you.
Jamie,
Commissioner Goklowski. Jamie, I have a question for you.
real quick before we move on, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I just want to clarify that yeah, never mind.
Commissioner Goklowski, for a question to Jamie. Jamie, the original notice of violation was issued, and in that notice it stated that the retaining wall was part of that violation. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
The initial notice of violation mentions the retaining wall. Is that part of the original violation?
Yes.
Okay, that retaining wall has subsequently been put on part of 34 Howard Avenue as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so in my opinion, or whatever it's worth, because the retaining wall is part of the original notice of violation, it should be mentioned that 34 Howard should be partied to a cease and correct or a notice of violation as well.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So I think the point is that the violation spans 2 properties and the solution should span 2 properties. And I think that's the fundamental basis of what we're discussing. Not, what the solution is per se, just that it's a total solution.
Is Commissioner Basserman question, I guess, Jamie, if in fact we tabled the cease and correct to the meeting of the 22nd, is the only impact to delay the process?
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. By saying table, you mean table determining whether or not to issue a cease and correct to the February 22nd meeting? Because at this point, there is no cease and correct order.
Right. Delay I'm picking up on, I guess, where Commissioner Boda was. If this is not the time that we just make that decision on the cease and correct, if we moved it to the 22nd, do we do anything time-wise or whatever other than the delay of 2 weeks?
Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. Well, there's the point that the activity has already occurred. It is already a violation. By delaying, you would then, if the commission were to decide at the next meeting to issue cease and correct orders or order, then there would have to be a just cause hearing down the road.
Commissioner Basso, but we do have the only thing on basically the record regarding the wetlands, which is our jurisdiction, is from 2 parties that right now there is no immediate impact to the wetland.
So there's two things that the commission. So certainly violations of the inland wetlands and watercourses regulations are if there's impacts to wetlands and watercourses. It's also a violation to conduct regulated activity without a permit. And there was certainly, grading, clearing, regulated activity that was conducted without a permit. So typically, when activity like that occurs, the commission requires some sort of resolution, because otherwise, word gets out, oh, the commission doesn't enforce their regulations. Let's just, So, I mean, so there's the impact to the wetlands and watercourses, but then there's also the fact that the activity is not non-permitted or has not received a permit, but is activity that would typically be subject to a permit from the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency. So theoretically, there's 2 potential possible solutions. One is a permit be obtained for the activity, and the other is that the activity be restored to a pre-existing condition, or some middle ground that parties agree upon. So, and I'm hesitant because I don't want to get. I sense, or I am sympathetic to the commission's concern about having a cease and correct order process going at the same time as a application, particularly an application with a public hearing, because it is kind of messy as far as trying to keep conversations specific to what is at hand. However, I guess one concern is that the commission's concerns may exceed the scope of what the application received addresses.
Okay.
So I guess that would be my response.
Commissioner Bassman, therefore, are you saying that if we were to issue the cease and corrects now, then in fact we could have a full and complete discussion on the 22nd?
Yeah, so Jamie Frederick in the wetland agent. So the cease and correct process is that an order is issued, and then within 10 days, the commission has to have a show cause hearing where the recipient of the cease and correct order can come before the commission and explain why they believe the order perhaps shouldn't remain in place, or, particular terms of the order. So then the commission would either uphold, and modify, or overturn. And the order would remain in effect until the commission makes a decision on the cease and correct order. So it is effective upon issuance.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Do we have any time limit on the cease and correct?
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So the time limit would be that you have to have the show cause hearing within 10 days of issuance. There's no determination. There's
no terminal date?
No.
Yeah, there's also, well, there's Jamie, I'm sorry, Dylan Escoach, Bernard Sussman. I think that in 14.4, it's 10 days to hold the show cause hearing. And then within 10 days of that show cause hearing, you've got to render a decision. I'm guessing because I don't have it in front of me, but
I think within a certain amount of days of making a decision, the commission has to.
I thought it was within 10 days of the completion of the hearing.
Right, but there's nothing that determines when the hearing has to be closed.
Oh, yeah, you could, right, you could run, you could, as long as you hold the show cause within 10 calendar days, you could then extend it out. And then, yeah, I'm not aware of any, you've got to finish it up by a certain time. I'd have to look at that.
Any other thoughts from the commission?
This is Commissioner Begemon. I'm thinking that if to do a cease and correct, we have to come up with a corrective action. And if we come up with a corrective action and the court says something different, where does that put us?
Well, I mean, Commissioner Bilaniskovich, I mean, I think that may be too speculative by half, right? I mean, I don't know that there is an answer to that question. I think the court has the authority to enter an order that would bear on both property owners with respect to the wall, but the commission has independent authority to enforce its regulations. And so I suspect that we would I suspect two things. The court will watch what the commission does. The commission will watch what the court does. I suspect that we'll probably move faster than the court, but that's just speculation as well. I mean, I think that it's important not to try and take enforcement action based on a theory of what the court might or might not do. I don't know that that's prudent for the commission to do. I think the commission has to make a decision about how it wants to treat a violation that's being maintained on two properties under the circumstances. And I think that if the court doesn't like what it sees the commission doing, the court will, of course, let the commission know, I'm sure. But I think you've got to keep them separate. Would be my advice. I do, Peter, Mr. Chairman, sorry, I do think, I think in the midst of all this, there was another alternative raised, which was step back and don't do anything and let the court process run its course. But I mean,
This is Commissioner Bassman, that sounds like abdication.
Yeah,
we have regulations. There's been a violation. The next case that comes up, then we're going to be under the gun for why didn't we act on this particular case where we clearly had jurisdiction for the violation. So I'm not really keen on entertaining that idea.
Right.
I don't know if anybody else is, but I'm not. Is there any interest from a commission, this is Commissioner Bassman, is there any interest from any of the commissioners to make a motion to issue a cease and correct for 34 and 38 Howard Avenue regarding the violation that's been noticed back in April of 2023? Well, let's see where we're
This
at.
is
I'll make-
Commissioner Boda. So Jamie and Attorney Aniskovic, I appreciate the additional clarity and the rationale. I feel swayed. I also know that this has been going on for so long, and I feel like we're just a couple of weeks away from a very full conversation about this, and there would be nothing stopping us from ordering cease and correct on both properties as at the end of the public, or not the end of the public hearing, but during that next meeting. And so I understand I think, like I said, I appreciate the clarity and the description of why we would do it and our particular purview and what's happened. But I think I still kind of want to leave it until we have all of the things in front of us. There's been so much back and forth with this particular case, and there are so many documents that pulling out this particular piece of it, I don't know, that I think we can do it next meeting. I don't mean to kick the can down the road, but I don't see a clear benefit of doing it today versus doing it 2 weeks from now when we're looking at all of the information, including pictures or the history or whatever.
You want to turn that into a motion, Commissioner Boda?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I don't think
We don't need a motion
but for
to not-
clarification, would the commission like me to continue this item to the next meeting so that you can consider after holding the public hearing whether it would be appropriate?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Boda. I think that is appropriate. I do think that it is in our best interest, and even just to have a little bit of time between now and then to think about, we do aim to provide some fair and uniform and how we've handled issues like these in the past and what that looks like. So yeah, I think it would be helpful to keep it on the agenda.
Right.
And Attorney Aniskovic, while you're here, thank you very much for the guidance and the clarity. It was very helpful. And Jamie, thank you for your due diligence.
Commissioner Goklowski, I personally feel that since the retaining wall is the biggest portion of this issue at this stage of the game, I think because that retaining wall is actually set on both properties, I think we should make a motion to issue a notice of correction or a notice of violation, because it spans from two properties and it should have been issued in the beginning. And we weren't aware of the property line crossing until just recently. So I think we have to put both property owners on notice here. It's clearly a violation. Do I have any other commissioners that have, other than Commissioner Boda and myself?
Commissioner Papantonis,
Commissioner Bassam, go ahead.
Well,
Commissioner Papantonis.
I think with our past practices, we probably would have had the cease and correct issued at this already by this point. I think Commissioner Golkowski makes a good point. It's a really tough decision though, because it's something that we've been grappling with for a bit. It seems the way we're going, it's going to end up getting issued in 2 weeks. If we're going to do it, we might as well just do it. We have the hearing coming up in 2 weeks. We can discuss it then with the public hearing.
This is Commissioner Bassman. I guess the way we deal with it on the 22nd, we're going to need to think about, because we have an application, we have an NOV, we've got these this issue of consideration regarding going beyond the NOV, do a cease and correct. I do think that Commissioner Boda's idea of waiting until the 22nd to allow a more full discussion than what we can have this evening does make some sense. So I guess where I was looking to issue that cease and correct, if we were going to do it this evening, I think waiting 2 weeks doesn't sound like it's going to be particularly harmful to the wetland. It may be helpful to the process, and therefore I guess I would put my my stake in the ground on waiting until the 22nd. But I'm one man, one vote. That's it. Anything else on notice of violation under enforcement? Anybody feel that waiting until the 22nd is something they can't live with?
This is Commissioner Armrod. I'm fine with waiting too. I like the idea of waiting until the 22nd, the public hearing.
Thank you. Commissioner Finaro, any thoughts?
Commissioner Finaro, I think waiting to the 22nd, it's two weeks is fine. I have no objection.
Did I miss anyone? I think we've heard anybody, heard from all the commissioners.
This is Commissioner Begamon, and I would think waiting till the 22nd is best.
Thank you, attorneys. I think that is that a swan song for you guys? Any reason for you to hang around, Attorney Yanukovych?
I don't, Jamie, do you know, I think we agreed you don't need me on Chestnut because we're going to wait and we're going to let the zoning side.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to stick around for 21 Brainerd Road real quick.
Oh, right. I do want to stay. I do want to stay for that. You're right. You're right.
Okay.
Forgot about that. How could I forget about that?
Speaking of Brainerd Road, that's next up. Cease and correct 22-1201, 21 Brainerd Road, construction without permits. Looks like an updated status, including the vacation status. No wonder you hung around.
Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent. So are we combining both discussions for ease?
That might be helpful, huh? Because cease and correct 230901, 21 Brainerd Road, same thing, construction without permit, and the continuation of the just cause hearing.
So at this point, Jamie Frederick, Inland Wetland Agent, cease and correct order 22-1201 has been upheld and modified by the commission and filed on the land records. A citation has been started relative to violations conducted, referenced in that violation, and also for non-compliance with that order. And then a subsequent cease and correct order 230901 was issued because additional construction activities and earth disturbance was occurring without a permit or any sort of authorization from the commission. So I have a timeline kind of outlining the history of what the commission's been looking at relative to this property, as one might interpret from the cease and correct 22-1201 number. The commission's been dealing with this since December of 2022. At this point, a citation of $1,500 has been issued. The period of uncontested payment has expired, so the next step would be letting them know that that period has expired. Then they have a certain amount of time to request a hearing if they want. And barring that, the citation would move forward. So, and then cease and correct order 230901, you'll see continuance of just cause hearing. There's been no decision regarding that cease and correct order. At this point, it's been in place for a while, and I would recommend the commission make a decision regarding the order if you feel that you're able to. We do have town council still present in case the commission has any questions, or if town council wants to update the commission. Staff has been working with various other departments that have violations on the property and keeping each other updated, but I haven't really had much direct correspondence with the property owner for a while now.
Okay, I can Bill Anskowicz, Bernard Saltzman, town council. So Jamie, I think, laid out fairly well the various aspects of this. I was able to meet with staff from building, zoning, Jamie, and fire last week to discuss the status of everyone's different enforcement orders. In addition, there have been 2 arrest warrants issued based on proceedings of the fire department, the fire marshal, in this case against the property owner. It's been made clear to us that there are multiple tenants occupying what is zoned as a single-family house. It's also been clear that unpermitted work has continued to go on even after a judge issued a fairly clear order for him to stop working on property. The only new piece of information is that there is now a pending foreclosure action against the owner on the property. And I can tell you that it's our intention to reach out to the counsel for the mortgage holder and try to coordinate some action. We don't want to take any action that will have a negative effect on the tenants who happen to be there through no fault of their own. We want to make sure that we're careful about that. But at the same time, we have got a property owner who claims that he has no means to do a variety of things to correct problems at the site, and yet did not qualify for a public defender. It's a messy situation, and we're hoping to try and coordinate the various enforcement actions at the town level. The court has been helpful to a certain degree, but I think our best bet at this point is to see to keep a tab on the foreclosure action, which may ultimately get us an owner who will cooperate with the town officials and correct all these violations. So if you can imagine something messier than what we just talked about, this is it.
Well, Commissioner Bass, it doesn't sound like with all that going on that we need to step up today to do anything, and we'll just let this thing play out.
I think at
Yeah.
this point, that's probably the smartest move. I couldn't tell you that anything that you do at this point would make a difference.
Make a difference.
So you probably have more important things to deal with.
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. Would you recommend that well, I guess my concern is the fact that we have this just cause hearing still open regarding the second cease and correct order. So I think either the commission needs to make a decision or continue it to a specific date. That would be my only thought, I guess.
Yeah, in terms of the foreclosure action, I mean, that could take months. So you know, it's unclear to me how quickly those are moving these days through the New Haven courts. So I could take a look at that, but I wouldn't be able to advise you as to how long to continue it to. I mean, we may be in the same place we are today 30 days from now.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent, would the commission be comfortable with tabling it to say April 25th? And then if we're still in the same boat, I can just update the commission as to such.
Sounds like a reasonable plan, given how many pieces have to fall into place for us to be able to see our way clear to a solution. Anybody feel that it needs to go longer?
Could say April 25th, and the owner could always request that it be picked up sooner if there's additional information.
Anything else on this 21 Brainerd? Do you have what you need, Jamie?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay. Now we're into item 4, applications for review. 35 Buena Vista Inland Wetland 240104. Looks like a house. They're tearing down an old one.
Mr. Chairman, can I leave now?
I don't see any.
It's almost my bedtime. I mean,
Can I use that one too?
Oh, come on. It's only 8 to 11. What are you talking about?
You guys work too late.
I don't see any reason why you need to hang around, Mr. Preddy.
Wait.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh.
You keep Jim.
I wasn't looking at who was talking, I guess. Bills, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Nice seeing you all.
Thank you.
All right, we'll try it again. Inland Wetland 240104, 35 Buena Vista. Tear down existing house and rebuild.
Good evening, Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering, 420 East Main Street in Branford, representing Matthew Steinfeld, who's the owner and who is also on here. Let's just go right to the screen. I'm assuming you can see the map. So 35 Buena Vista is all the way at the very end of Buena Vista. The rest of this is a right-of-way that goes to one house that's isolated in the middle of some land trust property back here. The property is approximately just under an acre in total. There are and there's an edge of a marsh here on the south side of the property. There are a number of buildings on the property, some sheds. The house that was actually recently taken down, it was an old like Quonset hut kind of a house with this attached carport and covered walkway and another little gazebo over here. What's the plan is to obviously take this out and put a new house in roughly the same spot with now a code complying septic system and some other features. This was the plan that we had submitted originally. the septic system, which has already been reviewed by the health department. A new driveway with a little turning area here, and then this house that is in roughly the same spot. This is a one-story section and a small two-story section, or yeah, partially two-story section and a deck, and then there's an existing boardwalk out to it, like an observation platform that will remain. The two bigger sheds will stay with a small addition. This will be sort of like a guest room setup. But we do have, again, a septic system with the tank and a pump chamber up to some higher elevations. It was a little bit low in the middle. If I go back to this, this lower area here where it was all crushed stone in there, the previous owner must have used it as a turnaround or something. There's actually a little yard drain right here and a pipe under this carport that outletted into an intermittent channel that does at times, because of the the groundwater being so high, it does run a little bit right now, but I was there in the summer and it was dry, so that's why it says intermittent. But Jamie and I walked the property on Monday, I believe it was, and based on our conversations in the field, I had actually changed the grading over here a little bit and tightened up this tree line to not cause so much disturbance here. And we took this location for a temporary stockpile area and put it over here. It's a little deceiving because the canopy's high, but there is actually ground here that's sort of cleared already. And quite honestly, there was not a lot of topsoil on this site that will be reused. So we have a smaller area now. It's a little farther away from this this business here. In fact, and then there was some comments from the town engineer. He was out today. The comments we got on yesterday. He was working remotely today. I did speak to him about 3:30. And I had spoken to the owner and the architect, and even though I kind of showed this as a paver driveway, the intention was that this will be the Stony Creek pea stone with like a kind of a cobblestone apron. So in light of that, and I didn't resubmit this because it was so late in the day, Jamie, but I changed this to depict the pea stone, the apron. We moved the stockpile area to the other side. We did tighten this up here. There was a piece of silt fence that was missing that we've added, and a construction entrance that we've added. The roof is being handled by two separate rain gardens. One will outlet to a little riprap area adjacent to it, with the as an underdrain relief, not as an overland relief. And that little intermittent water course we are going to basically leave alone, except for that we're going to build a little stone head wall around the top of it where it bleeds out now during the high groundwater times, and put some riprap inside of it, and have this this rain garden relief go into that area, because this is already kind of established. Again, instead of the driveway area running directly into that, all we're picking up is roof running into that. The driveway again will be pea stone, so there will be some natural infiltration happening there. Also, I didn't pick up because the architect drawings are preliminary still, or not finalized, I should say. They are planning on doing a small green roof section over the entry right in this area here, but I did not count that for stormwater storage for this roof area. In fact, I didn't take into account the previous roof that was there. I'm actually storing the entire new roof, so we're not storing a delta, we're storing the whole new roof. I think that's about it. I've already talked too much.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent, just for clarification, I want to point out that the marsh is a tidal marsh. So the commission's jurisdiction pertains to the intermittent water course feature.
Which there is a picture. This is from Matt Davidson's report. This is the carport structure that I'm standing in, or he was standing in. And you can see this kind of goes through these boulders here, some of which have been moved. There's a boulder kind of making a little bridge here. I think the previous owner had kind of played around in here. There was some anecdotally that he was to block some water and use it for irrigation at times. You know, it's definitely has been man adjusted over the years.
This is Commissioner Boda. This is for receipt, right?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. This was for receipt at the last meeting per the new process. It was just for receipt with no presentation. So it is, it has been, the 14 days are today. So it would be actionable if the commission feels that they have all the information needed. I will identify that as stated, I did meet with Preddy on site on Monday. We went over a couple of things, received a revised plan on Monday. I looked at it, drafted up a staff report, had the town engineer look at it, received comments from the town engineer yesterday afternoon, finalized my staff report and sent those over to the applicant yesterday. And the plan that we were looking at just now seems to address those comments, but is another revision that I have been seeing fresh with at the same time as you guys. So
Jim Preddy again. Jamie, did John reach out to you at the end of the day?
Yeah. So so one of the, I think the comments that have came up in the staff report in John's, the Hofferly, the town engineer's comments, was regarding stormwater management. So stormwater management is proposed for the first inch of roof runoff. And then the commission doesn't always require management of the first inch for driveway, but has at times required some sort of stormwater management for specifically for single family residence. But sometimes the commission has requested stormwater management measures, you know, with specific scenarios in mind. So I had thrown something in the staff report in case the commission had concerns regarding that. That was when I wasn't sure what the driveway material would be. I'm not sure if the driveway material changes anything for the commission. But yeah, I basically, because the driveway was immediately adjacent to the intermittent water course, I was wondering if the commission might think that some sort of stormwater management for stormwater runoff from the driveway area towards the water course would be appropriate or necessary. I think there was a little bit of a question from the town engineer, because he doesn't read our regs very often, as to whether or not the driveway needed to be included in the first inch of stormwater retention on site.
This is Commissioner Besserman. Jamie, what's the pitch on that driveway?
I'll let Preddy respond to that.
Oh, okay.
I'll
Glad
give
you stuck around, Jim.
It's actually steeper, Jim Preddy again, it's actually steeper now. We're flattening it out. It's coming in off the road, it'll be just under 3%, where now it is now the beginning section is closer to 8%. Actually, where I don't know, Jamie, if you remember where I parked my car, it's pretty kind of steep right there.
This is Commissioner Bassett. You know, you have a staff report on this, Jamie, that matches the presentation that Mr. Pretty made this evening, or is the staff report an earlier version?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. The staff report is in response to the plan that was received on Monday. So there have been further site plan revisions since I wrote the staff report, in response to the staff report and town engineer comments. I do have photos from the site walk on Monday, and I do have the comments that were provided if the commission wants to take a look at that. This application was received in response to, I was looking at the planning and zoning agenda and took a look at the site plan for an application they had for the subject property, and saw an intermittent water course on the site plan, and asked for clarification if it was in fact an intermittent water course, and if so, that an inland wetlands and water courses application would be needed. So this is a little bit of a unique situation where they're already before planning and zoning as well. Obviously, planning and zoning is gonna have to wait to act until the Inland Wetland Commission makes a decision. But I mean, the commission is meeting twice a month now. So I certainly, if the commission feels they need more time to look at the plan, I think that's reasonable. At the same
Well, this
time,
is Commissioner Bassett. I just think if we don't have, we're gonna vote, and we're voting on a plan that has changed. You know, we got the cart before the horse. 2 weeks is an opportunity to present before the commission the plan as it actually is going to unfold, with a staff report that matches that, and then we do our normal thing. Right now, it's a little bit juxtaposed. That's my thinking.
Jim Preddy again, Mr. Chairman. So the plan that I submitted on Monday had addressed Jamie's initial concerns, and the staff report was revised or written based on that, and I'm okay with the conditions that are in here. The only thing I've changed since then was a few things to address the town engineer's comments, which were kind of like added on to the end of this.
Jamie, can you post that? This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, can you post that staff report, and can we edit that this evening?
I can share the staff report, and I would certainly leave it up to the commission whether they're, ready to act or not.
This is Commissioner Begemon. Before we do that, you had talked about the possible doing something with the driveway runoff, and asking, well, now that it's gravel, do we not need it? How do we figure that in? How do we come to an answer on that?
You could ask the project engineer to comment on it.
Jim Preddy again. So his comment was specific to impervious areas, and I think he did not, and it wasn't clear on the plan what the driveway was going to be. But having spoken to the owner and the architect, now I understand that, like, again, the majority of it will be pea stone over some sort of stone base. So the majority of the driveway is really not impervious. And as such, as pea stone, I don't even know how we capture all that water. In other words, if it was pavement, all the water runs off and you could get it to go to a certain spot, but it's really not going to have runoff because the water is going to be in the stone.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. My comment was regarding, because I also had a comment kind of regarding stormwater management, and if it was going to be a paved area, looking for either like a vegetative buffer or a crushed stone infiltrator or something like that to provide a little bit of relief in the space available. I guess one question I would have is there any proposed measure to make sure that there's no stone migration that would end up kind of, floating and depositing potentially into the intermittent water course? Or would the material not be likely to have that be an issue?
Jim Preddy again. I mean, typically with these pea stone driveways, there's either you know, that metal edge or some sort of a stone or something, because nobody wants them all over the yard. So, so yeah, there'll be something that'll keep the stones kind of in place.
Mr. Preddy, this Commissioner Boda, so you have a pervious drive, and can you talk a little bit about the depth of the stone and what is underneath that? How are you knowledgeable about whether there's where the bedrock is, where the groundwater is?
Sure. Jim Preddy again. So we did test pits there for the purposes of designing a septic system, and there is ledge at about 3 feet or so in most area or less in most areas, and the groundwater was only at about 18 inches most places, which is why the system has been moved to higher ground on the lot and raised up, and we are raising up the driveway. There'll actually be a couple feet of fill, you know, free draining material under that driveway, as a means of, you know, keeping it dry and not having this basically this kind of a belly there that the previous owner had to put a drain in. So I think between the pea stone usually is only about a 2-inch layer that sits on top of, you know, depends on how much adjusting of the driveway you have to do, but you know, usually there's, you know, sand and gravel kind of rolled underneath it. And sand and gravel is used for road bases because even when you compact it, it still drains.
And it seems like Commissioner Boda, again, just kind of looking at the pervious nature of both the driveway and then the inclusion of the rain gardens with their under drains, that the water quality volume is not increasing. And can you speak to that? Or
the water quality volume?
So you're capturing the roof.
Yes.
And correct. The driveway is pervious.
Correct.
And what's going into the rain gardens?
Again, just there's the roof areas.
Yeah. This is Commissioner Boda. I don't, well, I guess we can look at the construction process, but in general, I don't have anything really that's jumping out as problematic with this application. I think there's, you know, it's nice to see a pervious driveway and those rain gardens. You want to run through the construction process with us?
Jim Preddy again. The construction process of the house or of what are you referring to?
Earth disturbance and any sediment and erosion control around.
Yes. Sure. So Jim Preddy again. So well, let me go back to that. So I had proposed, you know, there's silt fence basically around the construction. This was the piece that he was asking about. It was just inadvertently left off, but we've added it back on. And I had proposed to put hay bale check dams in this thing just temporarily. One of the comments from the town engineer was, well, why don't you use stone check dams in there, and if they're functioning good after construction, you could always leave them. So we changed them to stone check dams. I think I would want the them the channel to be free, but we'll see how that goes. The house itself, so the other house was kind of built right on the rock, and there was a little bit of a hole kind of on one part of it, but this house will not have a basement, so the excavation will be minimal. We're raising the house up a couple feet from where it was, so there will be a little bit of room underneath to, you know, a crawl space to run utilities and stuff, but the excavation will be really minimal because we're going to be building this on the rock for the most part. For the main part of the house, over here there will be a little bit of excavation work, but again, crawl space and so very shallow footings, no full basement here. I answer the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is Commissioner Boda, and that stockpile, you said that there's minimal, but that's fenced around.
Yeah,
with...
it will be enclosed in silt fence, a typical fashion. There is actually a cleared area here next to this. There's like a spruce tree kind of sticking out here. There was actually an area that's just leaf litter right now. There's nothing right there. Because some of the canopy that's on the side is rather tall.
And talk a little bit about the viewing platform.
What's
the distance there? Okay.
Jim Preddy again. So that exists. It's pretty high up off the ground, so it's not really not like a boat access or anything like that. It's just there's a platform out there with a little shade roof and some benches. But that'll remain. You know, it'll have to be maintained. There's some boards that need to be replaced, but for the most part, it's going to remain as is. It does afford a view down this marsh in this direction, the southeast direction, southwest. Sorry.
This is Commissioner Begemon. I don't remember if we've dealt with something that might be in a floodplain. Is this in a floodplain?
It is not. Here is the FEMA line. We're just out. We're kind of skirting it close over here, but it's down on the slope for the most part.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to say, it's elevation 12, and our floor is at 21, so we're up quite a bit pretty quickly.
Thank you.
Jamie Frederick in the Wetland Agent. So just a couple of clarifying questions. So is this plan revised today, February 8th?
Yes.
Okay. And then also is East Shore District Health aware of the gravel driveway, and does that have any bearing on their review of the septic system?
It shouldn't, because we told them that the pavers were going to be pervious and this is going to be pervious, so it
okay,
doesn't really change anything.
Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, you want to put up the staff report?
Sure. Jamie Frederick in the Wetland Agent. I'm quickly going to show the photos first because I do have one condition that will make more sense if you've seen them. I didn't take great photos. It was too early in the morning. But I'm standing just past where the water course starts, right behind me. But you can see, this is fairly similar to the photo we've already seen. Just try to get a little bit of what the bottom of the water course looked like. And this is where it wraps down towards the salt marsh near the property line. A picture of the salt marsh, and you can see clearly a manipulated channel that kind of just peters out and drains towards the salt marsh area. And this is the picture. I think there's a play structure. It doesn't really seem to be impacting the water course, but it also doesn't seem terribly appropriate to have it straddling the water course. So I do have a condition that suggests it be relocated. This is, so you can kind of see the foundation of the old structure to the right of this picture, and the water course is located in the back distance back over this way. The orange stakes mark out what was initially the limit of disturbance that has been brought a little bit closer to the house on the revised plan. So it's not quite as far out on the new plan. And then this is looking up, again, this is where the old house structure used to be. The parking garage or carport used to be approximately in this location here, with the start of the water course being here. As you can see, this is where we're talking about the driveway being a little bit steep currently. The septic system is proposed over in this direction, and they'll be bringing the grade up a little bit to accommodate that. And I think that's all I have. I'm standing on the start of that walkway to remain. All right. Oh, and just so the commission can see, this is what the old structure was with the carport, and then the water course being just on the other side of the carport area. So staff report. I just want to reiterate that there's a revised plan. The one I reviewed was dated 2-5. We have now seen one dated 2-8. So I would certainly recommend the condition that digital and 2 paper copies of that plan be submitted if the commission decides to act. Brief summary of the report and water course condition. Erosion controls, my concerns have been addressed. Staff recommends that the following should be added to the plan: anti-tracking pad, erosion controls in the northwest corner of the site along lower limits of fill associated with driveway and utility work. I saw that both of those things were on there. Stormwater, 2 rain gardens are proposed to manage the stormwater runoff from the roof of the proposed residence. It is staff understanding that no footing drain will be required, no stormwater management for driveway areas proposed. If retention of the first flush of driveway stormwater is not possible, applicant is encouraged to consider whether any treatment of runoff in direction of water course can be provided. So again, the commission hasn't always had a past practice for requiring retention of the first inch for a driveway. But given the fact that that water flows, that most of that drainage would be flowing towards the water course, I put that comment in there. Especially since at the time I was not sure what the driveway material would be. Landscaping, the site has been revised to include 2 rain gardens to manage stormwater. No planting plan has been provided for the rain gardens at this time. Comments have been received from the town engineer, and planning and zoning has a pending application. So the conditions that I had drafted up were pre-construction meeting prior to land clearing, initial erosion control inspection prior to land disturbance, planting inspection pre and post planting for the rain gardens, final inspection, prior to start of site work, revised plans shall be submitted for review and approval by the duly authorized agent showing anti-tracking pad. That one's been completed. Erosion controls along the lower limits of grading associated with driveway access. That looks like it's been completed. Planting plan to address rain gardens, an approximate location of under drain, daylight locations with energy dissipator detail. D was regarding the stormwater quality potential concern. So if the commission thought it was appropriate, perhaps revising that to say, some sort of detail for keeping the stone in place to prevent stone migration shall be added to the plans. 3, 2 original full-size copies of the revised plan sheets per condition number 2 shall be submitted for the file prior to start of site work. I'd also add digital copies just because we like those are easier than having to scan everything. Documentation confirming the import and installation of proper mediums for the establishment of the rain gardens shall be submitted to the Inland Wetland Office to help document compliance with the site plan and stormwater requirements. I added that because we've had a lot of issues in the past with questions as to whether or not the appropriate medium was brought on site. So it's just kind of a belt and suspenders way of trying to emphasize that that's important to the function of the rain garden and isn't a step that can be skipped. That everything should be staked out and as built submitted upon completion. And the play structure currently located over the watercourse shall be relocated somewhere outside of the watercourse. And then that per Connecticut general statutes, the permit doesn't take effect until approvals required for planning and zoning are obtained. Standard conditions and general provisions.
Jim Preddy again. I would ask that the commission try to act on this tonight, and I don't ever do that. I'm here a lot. Just knowing what the next meeting's going to look like, I'd like to not have this on there.
That's the comment of the night.
Mr. Purdy, can you where does the under drain daylight?
So on the, I want to go back.
Can you pull up the map?
So on this
and make it bigger, please?
Oh yeah. So on this rain garden, the under drain will go out and kind of go into this boulder head wall that we're going to construct, which we're going to put some riprap on the inside of it so that there's not any. And my intention with doing this with boulders is that if there is any groundwater that's still seeping out, it could be able to, won't get trapped behind the wall. And then this one over here, there's actually a little bit of fill going to happen. So because we can't get too deep because of the rock, so there's a little bit of fill here. And then the outlet will be put into like a little bit of a riprap area here just for energy dissipation. Again, it's hydraulic relief. So assuming that the water can't dissipate on its own, it has a place to go without basically drowning the plants for extended periods of time.
This is Commissioner Basserman, Mr. Preddy. In that driveway with the pervious surface, keystone, you said a couple inches,
yeah,
and then a sand gravel mix.
Yeah.
If we get something close to a 100-year storm, what happens if that's for an extended period? Does it just puddle in the driveway, given there's hardly any slope to it?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it'll be slow. It'll be slow to move, but it'll come down here, and then eventually it'll start making its way around a little bit, which is the other kind of strategic location for this. Because if any of the water does get around, at least it'll have to hit that first before it goes down the slope. But on this side, down this side, the relief is that watercourse that's already kind of established there. Again, we're adding a couple feet of fill here, so that would have to be all kind of completely saturated for us to get any significant
Any kind of rock. Okay. Thank you.
I don't know if you noticed in the last picture, the previous owner had a whole bunch of stone there where that area drain was because it was kind of a wet spot, I guess, for years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's appropriate. I don't know if it's appropriate to speak. This is Matt Steinfeld, the owner. I just wanted to thank you guys for your time, and especially Jim and Jamie for hitting the site over the weekend. I know you guys are very busy, so I'm just grateful for your expertise and guidance here. So thanks.
Any commissioner feel, this is Commissioner Basserman, any commissioner feel that we've seen what we need to see on this particular application, and with maybe a couple amendments to the staff report that staff put up in front of us? Anybody want to move this evening?
This is Commissioner Boda. I think we can. There's a lot happening here, but and I don't want to belabor this one application. Mr. Pretty, just again, going back to the rain gardens for a minute. I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right. It says that we received 3 days ago, or is this,
On Monday.
We don't have a digital copy of the site plan.
oh, that's why I'm not, so I'm looking
Yeah.
at, okay.
So Freddie's gonna have to share if you want to look at it.
Okay, so can you just go back again to the rain garden and, what? Is there an invert for the under drain? And then relative to the, yeah.
This is the Jim Pretty again. This is the
Make it huge, because I just want to like those little numbers.
Basically, this detail is plagiarized from the Yukon detail that they published. In fact, the planting list, which we'll submit when the final plants are chosen, but that's also from the Yukon detail. There's a list of plants to choose from.
Yeah, it looked very familiar.
Yeah. So yeah, there's about 9 inches of surface storage available, and then there's this 1.5 foot of the soil medium that I think Jamie was referring to in one of the comments. It has to be a certain mix brought in. And in fact, there are a few of the landscape supply companies that actually sell this mix like this now, because of the use of these details.
And then that 4-inch under drain, you said it goes to like a stone outfall where it daylights?
Over here, this would be like a stone berm kind of thing that we could put it in so that it'll, take the energy out of it. And then over here, it'll go into that boulder head wall that we're going to build around the end of that, where the water course originated.
And are there elevations on those for the, I think sometimes my worries are more, not so much about the plan, but about how the plan is constructed once a GC gets their hands on it, and those elevations. And I'm not seeing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't always. Sometimes they have to adjust a little in the field, but I will say in this particular case, I have full faith in the site contractor here. But yeah. So this is, I mean, we have a couple of feet to play with here because of this channel. So I'm not concerned about this. This one we had to build up a little bit to make this work, but basically you're 2 foot down, as we showed in that detail for the outlet here. Same thing over here. It's actually a little more available there, but.
This is Commissioner Bassford. Mr. Pretty, what kind of maintenance is required for the rain garden?
Very little, other than maintaining the plants. If we have a really dry period, although I don't think that's going to be an issue here, but if we have a real dry period, you might have to add some water, taking out dead stuff and replacing it, things that don't live.
Yeah, so normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, managing for invasives.
Trying to keep in the spring, trying to take some of the leaves out of it so it can still function as it's supposed to. Normal kind of flower bed maintenance, really.
Okay. Are there other issues? I don't want to jump ahead of anybody if there's other questions, but I mean, I think that we could go ahead with an approval. Jamie, I thank you for running through the staff plan. I think I'm going to need, if I was going to make a motion right now, I would need to just revisit what were the pieces that were addressed that no longer need to be in. And I think I would want to, you have in there the details on the planting plan. I would also ask for details on the under drain elevation, that's noted or that overseen by an engineer in the field after. I just want to make sure that that works correctly. Sometimes that.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. I don't know if it satisfies your concern, but it does say in condition number 5, a qualified PE or land surveyor shall certify that the grading and stormwater system on site is consistent with this approval. It doesn't say anything about specifically overseeing the activity though.
So, but if, let's see, sure.
This is Commissioner Begman in 5. It does talk about it has the invert elevation.
I have everything marked out.
Okay, was there other, I know you went through it, it was very fast, which I appreciate, but I couldn't hold on to it. I know that we need the digital copy and 2 plan copies to be given to staff. The plans for the planting plan.
Thinking possible, this is Commissioner Begman, and possible condition number 2D, that's going to change to something like that a border for the pea gravel will be in place to prevent pea gravel migration to the watercourse.
And A and B under 2 have been addressed. So theoretically C, A, and D would be B. And the approximate location of under drain daylight locations with energy dissipator.
Wait, hold on. If you're telling me, so I'm still on the noting the pea gravel. Yeah.
All right.
Just one second, Katie Blanchett and Wetland Associate. Dave, could you mute?
Your chair.
Commissioner Golkowski.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're just
I thought I was
away over
muted.
there.
Okay, Jamie.
All right.
Hey, Commissioner Bassman, Jamie, can we just say delete 2A and B?
Yeah. You'd say 2A and B to be removed because they've been addressed. C, if you wanted to, you could we need the planting plan still. The approximate location of under drain daylight locations with energy dissipator detail has been added on the plan revised as of today. So that part of C could be removed.
Or if I may, or you could just change that to say daylight elevations.
Yeah.
So added to the plan.
And I think the rest of it's still relevant as is.
Okay, this is Commissioner Boda. Everybody's good? There's no other things and stuff? All right, I will make a motion that we approve inland wetland 240104, 35 Buena Vista. It's a tear down of an existing home and rebuild. Including the use of the staff report and moving those possible conditions to conditions for approval, including condition 1, contacting the inland wetland department regarding inspection. Condition 2, prior to the start of site work, the revised plans shall be submitted, and we will need the digital copy and 2 paper copies to be given to staff. Additionally, we can remove 2A and 2B as they were addressed already. In 2C, just need the daylight elevations added to the plan. And 2D, let's add that there needs to be a border for the driveway for the pea gravel to prevent any migration of the stone. I think that was it. As well as the remaining conditions, 3 through 7 are standard conditions, A through F, and the general provisions, A through E.
This is Commissioner Begemon. I second that motion.
Commissioner Bassman, any amendments to that motion? I will take a roll call. Commissioner Goklowski.
Commissioner Goklowski, aye.
Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begemon, aye.
Commissioner Papatonis.
Commissioner Papantonis, aye.
Commissioner Ormrod.
Commissioner Ormrod, aye.
Commissioner Boda.
Commissioner Boda, aye.
Commissioner Finaro.
Commissioner Finaro, aye.
Commissioner Basserman, aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you next time.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
And thank you, Jim.
All right, we're jumping back down to enforcements. Notice of violation, 142 Chestnut Street. Removal of vegetation and earthwork without a permit to conduct regulated activities. This is the site we had the site walk for. Jamie?
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So at this point, a decent amount of the commissioners were able to see the site for themselves and kind of get a better understanding of the activity that has occurred. So essentially there's definitely been some movement of earth material and vegetation removal within 100 feet of a wetland / watercourse, primarily watercourse, on site. And the question before the commission is what needs to be done to resolve that violation? If there's corrective actions that need to be done, then I would suggest that the commission may want to issue a cease and correct order to outline those items and ensure that those items occur. If the commission wants, I can redisplay either photos or an aerial image. I think I'll start off with the initial notice of violation, because in that I outlined some of the items that I thought the commission might want to request. And we can kind of go from there. So let's see. So in the initial notice of violation, I outlined that regulated activities included removal of vegetation within 100 feet of a wetland / watercourse, grading / earthwork within 100 feet of wetland / watercourse. And I noted that there was a drainage ditch running approximately south-north along the western portion of the site, which may be considered a watercourse. Included the definition of a watercourse. I also mentioned that upon review of historical aerial images, there is an area located within the previous area of disturbance, which I would have requested an investigation that I would have requested been investigated for inland wetland soils prior to any additional activity. This area is where the reddish fill material has been placed adjacent to the watercourse along the northern limits of activity, westward of the drainage ditch referenced above and north of the historic internal driveway. Scheduled it for discussion with the commission. Oh, sorry. So this was, I guess, in follow-up to the follow-up to the notice of violation after the commission discussed it. Oh no, sorry, this is when I went out the first time to meet with the property owner. So the erosion controls that I requested initially were installed, and there's primarily one stockpile remaining on site. There were additional stockpiles along that eastern watercourse that were removed. Scheduled discussion with the commission January 11th. I anticipate that the commission will want to see additional information as it relates to the recent activity in their jurisdiction. This information could include, but is not limited to, a wetlands investigation, and site survey showing existing conditions. The commission may also require corrective actions in regard to any violations of the inland wetlands and watercourses regulations. This would be relayed through a cease and correct order. So I think I've mentioned before that this kind of was at a threshold where I typically may have issued a cease and correct order right off the bat, but I didn't because of the timing with the holidays and moving to the twice a month meeting schedule. If I had issued a cease and correct order, it likely would have triggered having 3 meetings in January. So, and then the commission decided it was important to see the site before making a decision as to what information was required, which, I certainly agree is pertinent. So I would say at the very least, I would think the commission would want to have a wetlands investigation done to confirm what the extent of wetlands / watercourses on the site relative to the areas of activity are. I don't know that it needs to be a full site investigation because there are some wooded areas that clearly haven't been altered. And, an assessment of impacts to wetlands and watercourses. Confirmation as to whether or not, there were any wetland areas that were directly impacted. And if the commission wanted to do a phased approach, you could request that information to determine if additional information is needed, or you can request that information, but say also a site plan is necessary, but we understand the site plan is going to take a lot longer. So have different deadlines for the 2 items. So that way, at least if, you get back the wetland investigation, you can say, okay, there doesn't appear to be any immediate additional concerns, or you can say, yep, no, we want to make sure that this is being done to ensure that there's no further impacts. Currently, there are no erosion controls along that drainage ditch. I have not requested it. The commission did not request it because they wanted to see the site. It does appear that at this point there is material getting into that and transporting down to the water course that goes around the edge of the property. So that's something the commission might like to see addressed sooner rather than later to help reduce any further impact.
Jamie, Commissioner Goklowski, can you put up the old photos of the property where that area because I think where the junkyard was at one time was where that drainage ditch was situated. I just want to see if that drainage ditch was actually visible in the aerial photos that we had.
One minute. I don't believe that it is because it's pretty small and it has pretty good tree cover. Although actually it looks like it might be. 1 minute.
I'm just trying to see what the property possibly looked like before they started, you know.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So everyone should be seeing an aerial image. And this is March 2012. So this was from 2012 when the site was being used as a junkyard. So the drainage ditch runs approximately in this location right here, drainage ditch / water course. And then there's another water course that comes along the northern limit of that area. And you can, it looks like you can kind of see it right here. And it drains easterly and then southerly.
So it looks like when they cleaned up the site from the cars and moved some soil around, they actually cleaned out the drainage ditch on the water course. You know, I think erosion control should be put in place. But you can see that by them cleaning out the cars and opening up the drainage ditch, it opened up the water course. All they have to do is maintain it at this stage.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agency. Yeah, I think that certainly adds another. I think that's one of the things the commission's going to want as part of potentially a site plan, or you know, and what level of a site plan the commission feels they need. You know, that is open for debate, but some sort of plan for stabilization of soils adjacent to the water course areas that have been disturbed, because right now there's just a lot of you know, bare dirt, and I think some of it's more likely to grow. Yeah, and it's not entirely clear to what extent the site's anticipated to be used for storage. I just think there's some more clarifying information the commission would want to see, particularly in regards to long-term site stabilization. You know, it doesn't look like there was a whole lot of vegetation removal necessarily in this area over here, but there certainly appears to have been vegetation removal on the eastern portion of the site. And there's certainly been soil movement on site as well. So long-term stabilization of that soil, making sure that there's no direct impact to wetlands and water courses, short and long-term, I think are things that the commission's gonna want to consider when assessing what next steps to take relative to the notice of violation. I'm just gonna kind of scroll down through these aerials. Here we've got 2019 September. You can see most of the junkyard material has been removed. And then this is a different 2019 aerial image where I had drawn out some approximate areas, with the green being the approximate historic use of the site from, you know, what you could tell from aerial imagery. What was done within wooded areas is harder to tell from an aerial. The red is the approximate area of where the vegetation appears to have been removed. And there's been some earth movement. And then this yellow area is the area of reddish fill material that I had indicated on the notice of violation, is an area that I would have requested a soils investigation be completed just to confirm that it, you know, there were no wetlands there. And the possible water course through the center of the site. So again, kind of speaking to what I was talking about earlier, I would say that the investigation should focus on this portion of the site. I don't know that the commission needs to require the full site be done. As far as wetlands investigation goes. And then this is the latest aerial imagery that we have, which unfortunately I don't have a date for, but it shows some of the recent soil movement.
Commissioner Basserman, I think, you know, from my standpoint, we're still kind of gathering data stage, and the, you know, soil assessment in a number of those areas are going to be fundamental to what corrective action, you know, we ultimately want to take. I'm a little less concerned about the site plan at the moment. And I guess the other thing that would be on tap for early action would be some erosion controls, especially in that area where we noted the debris on the right side where the red area is. And in that kind of corner up by where the red soil was, the top of that yellow rectangle, where it looks like the soil has been disturbed.
So there is a silt sock along like
Yeah.
this northeasterly and westerly limits, but there are no erosion controls along this drainage ditch water course. And there does appear to be some transport of sediment via this feature, because if you look at this water course, it's clear along this location here, but then it's clearly got some sediment material easterly of where this ties into it. So I think that the commission would be within the commission's purview to request additional erosion controls relative to this feature.
This is Commissioner Boda. I agree. I think we definitely need additional erosion controls along that that ditch. I would be interested in a wetland investigation and an impact assessment. It appears that, again, that ditch, we can see not only sediment, but what appears to be that iron-eating bacteria, and that would be an indicator of impacted soils moving, which leads to changes in pH and potentially there's additional metals in there, and we see also in that site that, like Jamie just said, where that ditch comes into contact with the water course, there is a change in the clarity of that water. I am curious about the hydrological connection between that ditch and the water course that we're seeing on the to the right of that red line, that the earthwork. There's just a lot that we don't know about the site and how the water is moving on the site. And I think that we need that information before we can decide what to do or what not to do. So I do think that putting erosion controls around that ditch, as well as the storage material, is going to be a first important step. And then next, we need the property owner needs to have a full wetland investigation done, as well as an impact assessment. And from there, they can certainly apply for an after the fact. But before we can say what needs to be done or not done, I think we need the information from the wetland investigation and then impact statement.
is Commissioner Basserman and Commissioner Boda, would that be for the area that is highlighted in the map that we're looking at? So only the disturbed area?
Excuse me. So I think when you say the highlighted area, you're talking about the green area?
Yeah, green and red, I guess. Yeah, green and
Yes,
red.
yeah, because you have that drainage ditch, right? And then that drainage ditch, because I think part of it is going to be the person investigating, because they're not just looking at, they can't just look at the drainage ditch in isolation. They need to be looking at the hydrological flow. And so wherever that ditch is going, that water needs to be followed and looked at for impacts.
Okay.
And so we see.
Would that also take into account that red soil area? We get some idea of what that material was?
No.
Or do we need somebody different to tell us what that material is? It was also very spongy up there in that yellow area. And would that be a different assessment than the two that you mentioned?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think you're talking about soil samples. You're talking about
just knowing what that material is, because it, I felt it quite spongy when I was walking on that red soil, and maybe that would then be a contribution to movement as opposed to requiring it to be compact.
What is,
Yeah,
what is that called? Is that like phase two? There's a name for that kind of testing when we require the soil above tested for impact, not just as a sediment, but for possible contaminants. Jamie, do you remember? Do you know what I'm referring to?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I'm not sure, to be honest.
I know that it's been quite some time since we have used that. I feel like it was used on the by the Tabor property. I'll see if I can remember, but basically there was concern about the makeup of the soil, not just that there's sediment, but what is actually within that sediment that can be impacting the wetland water course and any of the water chemistry.
Commissioner, yeah, it's real close to the wetland. I guess to the extent that I believe it was brought in. It was not soil from that area, correct?
Right.
Right. So, and whether that's an additional, a different group, sounds like it is.
Commissioner Goklowski, soil samples could be given to the agricultural station, and I think they were in Wallingford at one time, and they'll test the soil and tell you what's in the soil and what's made up of it, and if there's any contaminants in it.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. Yeah, usually the ag station, it's kind of more focused on things that are specific to agriculture. So I guess there's kind of two ways to proceed with that. One is I can try and identify what it is the commission is looking for, and or you could have the soil scientist address that concern and whether or not, they feel that it's appropriate to have the material further tested as part of their their impact assessment.
Jamie, this is Commissioner Boda again. It is a phase two And so perhaps you can take a look at that and see if that would, and I can go back and look. It's been some time since we've required that, but it may be appropriate for this site. And maybe other commissioners can get some background on what it means to ask for phase 2. So because it is a more extensive environmental review of the site when there's concern about potential contaminants.
Commissioner Goklowski, I'm sure the property has been contaminated throughout the years with the use of it being a junkyard. My concern right now is that soil, that clay soil that to me seems a mixture of gravel and clay. And if there's any minerals in that soil that is going to be toxic to the water course that's right there with that gully, that's my concern right now. So I guess the first course of it, we got to get that area blocked off for erosion control, and then we got to go from there. But they have to do a soil sample for us.
Commissioner Papantonis, we're going to need to know what that red fill, that red soil is. I mean, ultimately, I don't know how we're going to work through this without knowing that information.
And this is Commissioner Begeman, and I agree with all that. Another thing is when we talk about doing a wetland investigation, it depends on how far to go in the property, depends on what the owner may intend for the property in the future. So if they intend to cut further west, or there's another water course over there, so if they go up and over the hill. So I think that we can't define how far it should be investigating. We know that we need at least this, but if there's intention to go further, then it would have to be so we'd have to talk to the property owner to get future intent and then determine how much.
I believe the property owner is present if you want to ask that question now.
Hi, Kevin. It's Commissioner Begeman.
Hi.
Going in the future, is there any more planned site development or cutting of trees or?
No, we're pretty much what you see is where we plan on being.
Okay, thank you.
And I can get that soil sample. That's not a big deal.
And another question, this is from Commissioner Begeman for Jamie or whoever knows on the commission. When they do an environmental assessment and impact statement or impact assessment, that also involves how the soil that has been pushed down a bank and is around tree trunks could affect those trees, and how that could, if those trees die, how that could affect the water, because I think that was a concern we had when we saw the site.
Yeah, generally speaking, I would say that an assessment should be addressing that. I think that kind of brings to light a question I had in my head while commissioners were discussing things as to whether the commission feels that the professional doing the investigation should be coming before the commission to answer any questions the commission may have that aren't directly responded to in the report. Basically attendance at a commission meeting, whether that be something that you'd want to see.
Commissioner Begeman, I would say so.
This is Commissioner Boda. I agree that anyone who does this work should also be considered an expert in the wetland investigation and any impact assessment, as well as the soil testing. And the hydrological, mapping out the hydrological flow.
Commissioner Papantonis, I agree with Commissioners Begeman and Boda on that.
Commissioner Goklowski, I do agree, but I have a question. I believe there's a water course that's also running in from an adjacent property that's also running into this particular water course. So we got kind of a little situation here that I'm looking at the map, and when I walked the property, I saw there was a water course on the adjacent property that was running down and then running back around the property, where we noticed that one of the adjacent property owners had debris in the waterway that we noticed that particular day.
This is Commissioner Boda. I think that's why we need the expert to review the on-site hydrology as well as be able to provide insight for us on any hydrology that is either flowing from off-site or is leaving the site, because they'll be able to do as much investigation as possible, obviously on that property, but they should be able to use maps and extrapolate the flow in this particular watershed.
Jamie Frederick in the Wetland Agent. To clarify, as far as the hydrological mapping, do you want that? What expert are you looking for to conduct that analysis?
This is Commissioner Boda. It potentially, if a soil scientist is qualified to do that, it may need to be an engineer or an environmental scientist. I think that that would just be a question of what within their background qualifies them to address the hydrology.
This is Commissioner Bassman. That's a fair amount of work. Jamie, what's your thought process about how long that's likely to take for those pieces to come together for the commission to be able to review that with the experts present?
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. I think for the soil scientist, probably providing for like a month to a month and a half would be reasonable. I'm not sure what a full phase 2 assessment would take as far as time frame. And I'm also not sure what it would take as far as time frame to test just the fill material. But I suppose, you could set like a month or month and a half time frame to check in. And if additional time's needed for, some of the information that could be addressed and or provide flexibility in the language so that it's not coming before you unnecessarily twice. So yeah, I was going to ask about time frame, and I was going to ask if the commission is thinking that a cease and correct order is appropriate, or if moving forward with this information is what you feel like you need, is all that you need to do for the time being.
This is Commissioner Begemont. Phase 1 and phase 2. Sorry to go backwards a little bit here. I know, Commissioner Boda, you're talking about a phase 2. So from phase 1 is that somebody looks at the site and thinks by visual inspection whether or not a phase 2 needs to be done. So like, how do we know to determine that it already goes to a phase 2 versus an expert looking at it and saying it's either likely that we need to do phase 2 to see if contaminants are present, or just phase 1, which is a lesser, not as involved, but determines whether a more involved assessment is needed? Or are you already thinking by looking at it that it definitely needs a phase 2?
This is Commissioner Boda. Personally, I need to revisit those criteria because, like I said, it's been a very long time since we issued a requirement for a phase 2. And so I would just like to revisit
Got it.
just the answers to those questions, and perhaps Jamie can additionally do some background and help us make a more informed decision.
This is the property owner. I'd really, a phase 1 and a phase 2 there is going to be quite extensive. It's 60-year historical junkyard. That's a big ask. I could see getting the soil sampled in the area of disturbance and getting you that information, checking the water as it exits that drainage area and seeing if there's anything harmful in it. But going to a full-blown phase 1 and phase 2 is quite extensive for what we're talking about here.
Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. Yeah, so maybe the first step is to have the soil scientists do the wetlands investigation and impact assessment, ask them to specifically address whether they think a phase 1 or phase 2 site assessment is appropriate. I personally have not seen a phase 1 or phase 2 report required by the commission, but we've gotten them submitted for sites that have had environmental impacts historically, and they're like 500-page books. So that's why I said I don't know how long that would take. It is a very involved process, so I don't know that a full phase 1, phase 2 assessment necessarily needs to occur. But I think by asking the soil scientists to speak to that, and by getting that soil tested, it gets the commission heading in the right direction without losing time, but also doesn't unnecessarily potentially ask for information that is beyond what the commission may need. Does that make sense?
It's Commissioner Begman. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and just Commissioner Bassman, then you would add the hydrological assessment to those other two, correct?
Yes.
And just a note, I mean, this was never an establishment under DEP.
This is Commissioner Ormrod. I do these phase 1, 2, 3 site verifications for a living. And I do agree with the property owner that, phase 1, I mean, and what Mr. O'Neill's saying is, the site, and I can't verify this, but there's no regulatory driver to investigate the site. That's what he means by an establishment is a legal term. Phase 1's, you're looking at 2 to 3 weeks. Phase 2 for something like this, a historical junkyard, that involves a lot of testing. So, if we're just looking at impacts related to the fill material, I mean, there's some, you don't have to do these phase 1, phase 2s. You could just do limited, like soil sampling, just to see if there's any contaminants in that fill material, because that stuff is really typical of the Hartford Rift Valley. They're red beds. Their parent material is like New Haven Arcos, but there very well could be contaminants in there that just you wouldn't know unless you tested it. So yeah, I don't know if phase 1, phase 2 is really, yeah, I do agree with the property owner that is a lot. So might not be what we're looking for in terms of the impacts, the fill that we're trying to assess here.
So why don't we go with the wetland assessment, the hydrological and the impact, and we'll get that information and then deal with it there.
Yeah, Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent. Yeah, so just to kind of follow up on Ormerod's comments, I mean, and because I know we have some new commissioners, so yeah, we're just looking at the recent activity that has occurred. Obviously, looking back at the aerial, we can see that there's a historic use of the site that's fairly intense. But and while some of the activity may have improved aspects of that previous use, we just want to make sure that there's no negative impacts occurring, and that again, any activity within 100 feet of a wetland that would be considered regulated activity is being reviewed and approved by the commission. So for clarification, how does the commission want me to proceed? Are we asking for this information in a follow-up letter? Are we asking for this information in an order? And what do we want to put for basically a meet back date? Although if the commission does issue a cease and correct order, we do have to have a just cause hearing within 10 days.
Commissioner Goklowski, Jamie, the property owner has seemed to be responsive to your request in the past, has Amy?
Yeah, so Jamie Frederick, inland wetland agent, the property owner has been very responsive. Anytime that I've requested to go on site, he has been happy to meet with me out there. He's been happy to meet with the commission. When I asked for erosion controls, those were installed. I have not followed up regarding the additional erosion controls that we discussed tonight would probably be appropriate. And I'm pretty sure that if we were to ask him, he'd be, open to installing those erosion controls as well. I guess the threshold, and I'm not necessarily seeing it in the information, so we already have the notice of violation. So they're already on notice of the fact that they're not compliant and they're working with the commission. A cease and correct order is when you have a corrective action that you are requiring be implemented. And at this point, you're still fielding for information. So I don't think that you need to necessarily move to the cease and correct order. I just want to make sure I'm taking the route that the commission wants to be taken.
Commissioner Goklowski again. Since the property owner has shown a history of responding to the request of the commission and the inland wetland agent, I think it's important that we establish that the erosion controls go along the infamous drainage ditch that's going in through the middle of the property, and get the soil tested. And then at that stage, once we have that information, we could see what's going on and with any further action that needs to be taken.
Okay. So for clarification, where does the commission want the additional erosion controls installed? Just along the water course where that reddish material, well, the reddish material is kind of spread out generally. So I guess let me screen share again.
On both sides of the drainage ditch, the erosion control should be established along the whole entire drainage ditch.
Okay, so yeah, there's a bit of like a road crossing across.
Right.
So the question is both sides of the drainage ditch and then both sides, east and west, in the full length. Is that what we're looking for?
Except where they have the road crossing.
Except for the road crossing, so that they can still maneuver. Is that a general consensus from the commission? And does that make sense to the property owner, what's being requested? As far as the erosion controls go?
Evan?
Still there, Mr. O'Neill?
I am having a little trouble there. Yeah, I'm fine with putting the erosion control on both sides there. I don't think on the one side nothing's been disturbed, but if you want it there, we'll put it there anyway.
Okay. And then do you have any feedback on how long you think it will take you to get that soil tested and get a soil scientist out to take a look at those areas of the site?
I mean, I know who I'm going to call. I don't know how busy they are, but I'm going to use David Lord, who I've used in the past, and then I'll probably talk to Paul Muniz about getting the soil tested. I'm sure I get soil samples collected, next week. I don't, come back. It should be 2 to 3 weeks. I should have some answers for you.
So does the
Oh, at the
committee want to
first,
schedule this for March 14th?
yeah.
Yeah, and I'll share them.
That would seem to be reasonable. And then, because you got the hydrological assessment as well.
And I'll send a follow-up letter outlining the items that we discussed. And if property owner or any of the professionals have questions, they're welcome to contact the inland wetland office. And then just for also clarification, the commission wants at least the soil scientist to attend the March 14th meeting as well.
Yes.
Yes.
And if for some reason they're not available that date, is the commission okay with me flexing one meeting if need be?
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
That sounds fine.
Does the
Somebody have something to say? No?
All right, I'll send a follow-up letter and we'll meet back on this site on March 14th.
Great. Okay, another NOV. Commissioner Bassman, another NOV, sees a correct 220601, 20 Huntington Drive, activities without a permit. I guess this is just an update this evening.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. Yeah, so we were supposed to have the survey for this meeting. I did not receive the survey. The property owner has not received the survey. Apparently the person he's reached out to does not appear to be working, and he's looking to hire somebody else to do the survey with the wetland flagging. I did get an email response stating that, and also that I could go out and inspect the signs because the signs were on the wrong post previously. The signs appear to be on the proper posts now. I don't think the property owner is present. There's one sign that needs to be relocated and one sign that fell off of a signpost. So I'll follow up with the property owner about that. And the property owner has expressed that he's had issues with basically the company he hired taking his retainer and not providing a deliverable, and with health issues. So does the commission want me to work with the property owner about rescheduling this and get it on the agenda sometime before the end of the spring, hopefully with the outstanding information addressed?
This is from June of 22. I mean,
yeah, I mean, there has been significant work done. So, there was filling of the wetland with woody debris, which has been removed. The signs are up for the most part, and there was a planting plan which was implemented this past fall. So we have made progress. We're just trying to kind of wrap up these final things, being the survey, and then he's gonna have, I think, 3 years of monitoring for the plantings, and then final stability of the vegetation, the grass on the hillside are the outstanding items. So yes, it's been a long time running. I think we're at a place where it's lower priority for the full commission to be looking at. So that's why I asked, does the commission want me to just bring it back when I hopefully have more of an update? And if I find that I'm not getting an update, bring it back to the commission at that point.
Yeah, if you don't get cooperation, bring it back. Concerns? I see we have somebody here for the Meadows. Jamie, can you frame this quickly for us?
All right, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. This is a matter that kind of has been somewhat on my radar for a couple of years, and trying to get to a point of resolving it as it pertains to inland wetland jurisdiction. So let me just, because I can't remember anything at this point off the top of my head, pull up the file. So back in 2022, the management company at the time contacted me about drainage concerns, particularly relating to a couple condo units flooding. And so I met with them on site, talked about the fact that any drainage modifications would need to be reviewed by the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission because there is a watercourse and likely associated wetland complex behind the unit. And then about a year and a half later, I got forwarded a call before you dig for drainage. Met on site. There were some black drainage pipes that had been laid out. Knowing that there has been some significant flooding issues, I had told them that the intention was to bury the pipes. I told them that for the time being, while they worked on a plan, they could leave the pipes as is, with the understanding that it was alleviating some of the flooding concern. And then it kind of fell off my radar. We had a lot of stuff going on. And then I was contacted by one of the condo unit owners, and there were concerns about continued flooding, at which point it came to my attention that it had not resolved the issues. So I reached out to the management company, found out there was a new management company, was trying to be sensitive to the fact that they were trying to pick up on this problem that's been going on for a while. They've hired a engineer and a soil scientist. And yesterday I got some, I think, preliminary materials. So long story short, let me screen share for you. These condo properties can be very difficult because there's lots of drainage stuff. A lot of these condos are kind of older developments, but we don't necessarily have drainage plans. So
this is Commissioner Begeman. What's the address? Like, where is this?
So this is the Meadows. So it's over by, it's off of Hemlock Road. Let's see. So here's Hemlock Road and here's Hosley Ave.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
And yeah, that's so the area within the condo association, condo property that's been raised as a concern is relative to, I think this is Spruce Hill Road, this building here. There's a lot of water that comes down this hillside and down this water course, and it floods, and it's been flooding these units. So this is from when I went out after the call before you dig, and you can see that there's these black drainage pipes laying on the ground. This one is discharging to a catch basin, which ultimately discharges to the water course, and this one's discharging towards the water course area. I had talked with the management company at the time, again, understanding they were trying to alleviate flooding concerns. I could see that there was previous pipes discharging to the water course that appeared to be coming, being roof leader drainage from the building that this is coming from. So I told them to cut it back so that it would be draining through the wooded area prior to entering the water course. And yeah, so again, this is that pipe, and you can see the water course here. And this is the outlet from the catch basin, which is just downstream where that other black pipe was. And these are the white old roof drains, which were no longer draining because they've theoretically been crushed. And you can kind of see from this photo that there's additional ones further up. So all of the there's a couple condo associations, and you know, I'm not sure exactly what goes into here, but I know that the commission had another application about an outfall repair. There was no additional drainage being conveyed to it, but there was erosion of a drainage outlet that was being repaired so that erosion wasn't an issue. So I mean, there's clearly other discharge locations of stormwater to this water course. It's receiving a lot of water, so it's going to be a very flashy water course. So I had talked with the management company at the time about the fact that if there's any additional stormwater being added, it would need to be retention of the first inch to help prevent, you know, any increase in that flashiness. And one of those black leaders appeared to be coming from this garage, which it was my understanding didn't previously connect.
This is Commissioner Bassman. Jamie, how do you want to proceed?
So I had told I talked with the new management company, and I, you know, explained that process or that conversation. And like I said, they've hired an engineer and a soil scientist. And I recently, I should have one other page, received a sketch. It doesn't appear to be to scale. I tried to lay it out over the aerial imagery so that I could sketch the wetland boundary on the aerial image for the commission, and the buildings didn't line up. But I'm not seeing the existing conditions. I'm just seeing the proposed conditions in our Dropbox. Here we go. So this is an approximation of what the existing condition is. And then it looks like they're proposing a retention basin immediately adjacent to the wetland area. I have not had a chance to review this and provide any comments. So we do have some members present. I'm not sure. It looks like we have the management company and possibly the engineer. Too much for me to try and look at. So I don't know if the commission wants to hand it over and see what they're thinking of is what they want to do to resolve the issue. So as this pertains to wetlands, basically I was looking for any new drainage to be managed. And if there's existing drainage that was being replaced, to have that documented as that being the case. To make sure that, again, if there's any new regulated activity occurring, that's being reviewed and approved by the commission.
Commissioner Gokowski, Jamie, that water course that's behind the buildings there, what property is it affiliated with? Is it with the Meadows condominium?
Yeah, Jamie Frederick and the Wetland agent. So a majority of it is on the Meadows.
Because it looked like that drain looked like it needed to be cleaned out, and I'm sure that would solve some of their problems if that water course was cleaned out a little bit.
So I did talk with the previous management company, I think, because we had looked at the water course, and there were a couple of woody debris dams that were clearly contributing to the flooding issue. And let me see if, I mean, it was pretty clear how significant the flooding was. So I had told them that they could by hand move that woody debris so that it wasn't contributing to the flooding. Because I didn't want them to have to go through the whole process of going to a commission meeting when people had literally feet of water in their basement. And the new plan does seem to propose continuing that process. The existing stream bed area to be.
This is Commissioner Basserman. Jamie, I guess I don't understand. If this is a problem, we're not here to design the solution. Why isn't this an application that the commission then looks at and says, yeah, this works or it doesn't work? They've hired appropriate people. They talk to you to get some ideas, and then they come before the commission with an application. What am I missing?
Yeah, so
I also just want to point out that it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we've gone to 2 meetings a month so that we're not here at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and it's 10 o'clock and there's still a bunch of stuff. So,
sure. So, long story short, I put it on this agenda because I've been telling them basically since November it needed to be brought to the commission because it has been an ongoing thing. And so, yeah, if you want, we don't have to discuss this any further unless, they're here. If they have any specific questions for the commission, I can reach out to them, talk to them about the application process, give them some feedback on this initial plan. And then I guess my question for the commission is kind of along the lines of what we've been discussing. As long as I'm making progress with the property owner, are you okay with me handling this and bringing it back once we have an application that the commission can review?
Sounds good.
All right.
Can I speak? I am the engineer for Westford.
Go ahead.
This development was created late 70s, early 80s. I'm not sure if they sustained any flooding during 90s and 2000s. They did go into the stream area and cleared a lot of stuff with some major storms that occurred through the past few months. We had 3-4 inches of rain. It appears I went down there a Monday after a Sunday torrential rain, and the stream was fairly low. I think a big part of the problem was that the stream was being slowed down by accumulation of branches and debris. As far as the roof leaders and stuff, that's why I decided to do the retention pond, so that you're not introducing any more water into the stream. But this has been an existing condition for probably 40 years. And I think the flooding issues occurred probably 5 or 6 years in the past. And I think some of the corrective measures have already helped. Certainly, we'll do whatever we need to accommodate the Inland Wetlands Commission.
Appreciate that. Look forward to the application. Good luck.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I'll follow up and we can discuss kind of next steps.
Yeah, okay. Jamie, you can just follow up with me.
Will do, John. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Commission.
Yep. All right, Inland Wetland 141102, 250 North Main, phase 1 of a commercial development, request for bond release of $1,000.
Jamie Frederick and the Wetland Agent. So essentially this is a two-phase project. Majority of the bond, with the exception of $1,000 for phase one, was released. The 1,000 was retained to confirm that 5 plants were in fact planted in the appropriate location. That was back in 2021, I want to say. And I honestly never did a follow-up inspection, and at this point, telling which 5 plants were planted at that time would be impossible. Since that decision was made by the commission, we have gotten the year 5 monitoring report for phase 2, which the commission determined they were satisfied with the amount of plants. It was discussed about the invasives on site and the volunteer plants on site, native volunteer plants, and the commission determined that they were satisfied with the planting survival as it pertained to the 85%, but that they wanted another 2 years of monitoring as it pertained to the balance of native plants versus invasive plants, and making sure that we're continuing to have an increase in natives and a decrease in invasives. So while it's far from ideal, I would probably recommend to the commission that they release the $1,000 because
you can't identify the plants that are
for 5 plants
old birds versus
the commission's kind of already made a determination regarding the number of plantings as it pertains to phase 2. I think it would be reasonable.
And anybody have issue with returning the $1,000 bond for 250 North Main Street? Okay.
This is Commissioner Boda. I would, if there's a vote, I would recuse myself. I don't even know what you, my brain is shutting off. I don't even know what you just said. So I got nothing anymore. I can't make a decision right now.
This is essentially the last thing. So
but I'm just for the record,
we've got enough people.
I'm not, I'm not down.
Commissioner Boda recused. All right.
Is that now we got to do a vote?
Any commissioners have any questions or need additional information? We do need a motion and a vote.
I make this Commissioner Bass make a motion that we return the $1,000 bond to 250 North Main Street, Inlet Wetland 141102, because the conditions have been met.
Commissioner Goklowski, second.
We have one recusal. I guess I'll do the honors. Commissioner Goklowski.
Aye.
Commissioner Begeman.
Commissioner Begeman, aye.
Commissioner Papatonis.
Commissioner Papatonis, aye.
Commissioner Armrod.
Commissioner Armrod, aye.
Commissioner Finaro.
Aye.
And Commissioner Basserman, aye. Commissioner Boda recused. Okay, our only application for receipt this evening, Wetland 240201. 380.
Can't hear you, Peter.
I'm sorry.
Couldn't hear you. You were talking too far.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have an application for receipt inland wetland 240201, 380 Shore Drive, a art studio with support spaces and a breakfast nook. Nobody's making a presentation tonight, right?
Nope.
I don't see anybody
Consistent
here.
with new practice, just for receipt.
Right. Great. Agent approvals, there are none.
None.
Correspondence and announcements, I'm going to recuse myself because the first one up is my property. Commissioner Boda, would you mind chairing the rest of the meeting?
Not at all. You leaving us?
You probably set a land speed record here.
All right, number 9, aquatic pesticide permit application, 18 Wellesley Road.
Jamie Frederick and the wetland agent. So this is a deep permit. They're sent to the commission in case the commission has any local insight or questions that perhaps state staff wouldn't think to ask. This is a new application. A lot of times these are repeat applications once they're started because the problem usually doesn't go away. I've quickly looked at it. I didn't see any concerns. We have the ability to comment to DEEP and or the applicant if there's any questions or concerns. So if you have any, let me know. I like to follow up with them pretty quickly. So, let me know the next day or so and we'll forward them on.
Excellent. All right. B, Eversource tree work notification.
Just a notification that we received. We've never really done anything with it.
Excellent. 9C, aquatic pesticide permit application, Plymouth Colony Pond.
Same concept as A, except this one is a repeat application. So the commission has already had the opportunity on numerous occasions to comment and has not.
Excellent. And 9D, Amtrak Vegetation Management 2024.
Same concept as B.
All right. Excellent. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner Gokowski, second.
Oh, who was the first?
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Well, you
Apparently,
know,
the chair actually has the ability to adjourn the meeting if all of the business has been achieved. So you could just say meeting adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned. Everybody have a great night.
Good night, all.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.